The sixth commandment in reverse: protect life, you shall not murder. Exodus 20:13. The difference between command and principle. When we study the commandments, we ask not only what should I not do, but what is God trying to grow in me? What does God want us to know about Himself and about ourselves? The most important thing we can mine out of every precept is the principle. More often than not, God doesn't just want us to know what we are to do, but why. That way we can discover what the Bible calls the spirit of the law and begin to follow from the heart. A command is the what, do not murder, but a principle is the why and how. Why does this matter to God? What kind of people are we becoming when we obey it? We don't keep the sixth commandment simply by avoiding the ultimate act of violence. We keep it by becoming people who love and protect life, who defend the vulnerable, who interrupt harm, and who see people not as problems to solve, but as persons to honor. The spirit of the law. In my opinion, the greatest place in the Bible to go and see the heart of God on full display is the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5:7. Here, Jesus makes it clear that obedience doesn't stop at the literal act, but must seek the principle behind the law. In Matthew 5, he says, "You have heard that it was said to those of old, 'You shall not murder,' and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment." Matthew 21-22. Jesus presses the command deeper. Murder begins in contempt, when we dehumanize someone in our heart, when we say that person doesn't matter or they're better off gone. It's not just about what we do to someone, it's about whether we see them as someone worth loving, protecting, and forgiving. The principle: every life is a gift. Murder fails to love, it fails to protect, but more deeply it takes something that doesn't belong to us. That's the principle. Life belongs to God. It is not yours to devalue or discard, whether your own life or someone else's. God alone gives life. God alone has the right to take it. From Genesis to Revelation, the value of human life rests in one unshakable truth. We are made in the image of God, Genesis 1:27. And that is no small thing. Every person bears God's signature, even when they're inconvenient, even when they disagree with us. Even when they've done something wrong, they still belong to Him, and their life is not up for auction, retaliation, or disposal, but it is up for love and protection. Reclaiming the hidden victims. And I would be remiss if I left it there. To obey the sixth commandment, we must point to its most silent victims, the unborn. Every abortion is an erasure of image-bearing life. It is the preemptive removal of someone who cannot yet speak, fight, vote, or run. And the more vulnerable a life is, the more moral weight it carries for us to protect. There are many forms of injustice in the world, but abortion is the only one where a human life is destroyed before it can be held, known, or named. That is not a political statement. It is a spiritual reality. We cannot say we love life and forget those most at risk, and we cannot soften the sixth commandment until it no longer protects the ones who need it most. Murder in slow motion. But the commandment goes further still. It applies to any way we erode another's life. Murder can happen slowly, neglecting a loved one in despair, feeding bitterness instead of forgiveness, spreading shame instead of grace, refusing to help when someone's drowning emotionally or physically. James says, "If anyone knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin." Murder doesn't always wear red. Sometimes it wears a hoodie called indifference. Choose to interrupt death. There is a kind of life-giving rebellion built into this command. When you stand between harm and the harmed, when you speak life over someone who believes they're worthless, when you call a friend before they sink too low, that is the reverse of murder. That is Christ-like. You don't have to be in full-time ministry to save lives. You just have to be awake, aware, and willing to interrupt the process of death wherever and whenever it creeps in. Listen to how Solomon put it to his son: rescue the perishing. Don't hesitate to step in and help. If you say, "Hey, that's none of my business," will that get you off the hook? Someone is watching you closely, you know. Someone not impressed with weak excuses. 11-12. God sees whether we are fighting for life or stepping back to record death with our phones just to get social media hits. A life-giving imagination. To truly put the sixth commandment in reverse, we must be willing to give our lives for others. What if every conversation was a chance to heal? What if we measured our day not by productivity, but by presence? What if we considered every interruption a chance to protect something sacred? What if we saw even the most difficult people as image bearers in crisis? If you start with that assumption, you'll be right more often than not. Jesus never saw a disposable person, even when he was tired, even when they were sinful, even when they betrayed him. He didn't just avoid taking lives he had every right to take. He laid down his own life so that ours could be spared. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. John 10:10. That is what the sixth commandment points to. Not just avoiding harm, but embodying the God who gives and celebrates the flourishing of life. This week's challenge. Ask this question each day. Whose life can I lift today? Write down one person each morning and one action that will affirm, protect, or encourage them, especially someone vulnerable, unseen, or emotionally fragile. And just as important, find someone you don't like. Dare I say, find someone you hate. Don't hate them. Love them. Don't take from them. Give to them. If possible, do one small thing for the unborn this week. Volunteer, donate, write, pray. They need defenders who aren't afraid to love them in public. And when anger rises, pause. Ask God to show you the image of himself in the person you want to curse. Prayer God of life, you made every soul with care and purpose. You alone give breath, and you alone take it away. Forgive me for when I have cursed your image in others or in myself. Forgive me for silence when I should have spoken, and for bitterness when I should have forgiven. Help me to reverse the sixth commandment. Make me someone who interrupts death, rescues the weak, and sees the invisible. Let my words give life. Let my hands protect life. Let my heart cherish life. Help me reflect the heart of Christ, who laid down his life so that ours could flourish. Amen.